Cleopas and one of the other disciples are fed up. They slam the door, they walk out of Jerusalem, and they're on their way to Emmaus. It's the first day of the week, and it's time to just go back into the world and try to put the broken pieces together. As they're walking along, they're having a very heavy conversation. They are heartbroken. They are depressed. And this stranger comes up behind them. They don't recognize him, but we find out later that it is the resurrected Messiah in his resurrected body, and he disguises himself so that they don't recognize who he is. And as they're walking along talking, he comes up behind them and says, "Excuse me, gentlemen, but what is this conversation you're having? Why are you so depressed?" And Cleopas answered and said, "Are you a stranger in Jerusalem and have not known the things which are come to pass in these last days?" And the stranger said unto them, "What things?" Like he didn't know? What things? And as they walked along the way, that is when he then said, "Well, what happened next?" He is drawing out every detail that he can get them to remember. "Well, tell me more about this," and extracting every single detail from them as they walk along the way, and they're telling him now everything that had taken place that last week, and right down to the subtle nuances of everything that had transpired. And then finally Cleopas just broke and said, "And we trusted that he was a Messiah." And the stranger said, "O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the Nevi'im, the prophets, have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things which you have just spoken of, and entered into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all of the prophets, he expounded unto them in all these scriptures the things concerning himself." He took them right back down that road that they had just walked down and told them that everything that they had just told them, he showed them right in the scriptures how every single detail was written. It was embedded in the feast of the Lord, and that he had just fulfilled the spring feast of the Lord in every detail in which they had rehearsed it every year of their lives. And when they got all the way out to Emmaus, and he then sat and broke bread with them, and he gave thanks. He gave thanks to God, and he spoke the same words that he had spoken just a few days before when he was with his disciples there at the Last Supper. At the Last Supper, it says that he took the bread and he blessed God and said, "Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamosi lechem mim haaretz." Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. He spoke the very same prayer that 1,000 years before, when Abraham came back from the slaughter of kings in which he delivered Lot his nephew, and Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, came out of Jerusalem and brought forth bread and wine to Abraham. When Melchizedek came out and brought the bread and wine out, Melchizedek spoke that very prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamosi lechem mim haaretz. And he taught Abraham about the coming Messiah. Right at that point, when he shared the bread and the wine with Abraham, it does not record everything in the scriptures at that point of what took place. But we know that from that time on, then Abraham then taught his sons and all of their offspring, and every Shabbat, as we gather around the table, the high priest of the home, the father of that family, will take the bread in his hands and he will bless God with that same prayer. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. And the last night that Joshua was with his disciples, he said, "I am the bread of life. This is my body which is broken for you. This which you have been doing every meal, every year, year after year for 1,000 years. This was looking forward to this very time that I would be God's provision for you, that my body would be broken for you. So from now on, you do this in remembrance of me." And at that night, as they reclined around the table with those two disciples who he had just taught all the Torah and the prophets to, then he took that matzah in his hands, because it's now the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and he said that same prayer of thanksgiving to God, and then he said, "This is my body, which was broken for you. He broke it, laid the matzah on the table, and just like that, disappeared out of their sight. And they just leaped up from the table because they knew it's the Messiah, it's the Lord. And they said, did not our hearts burn within us as he walked with us by the way and as he opened our understanding to the scriptures? And they took off on a dead run back to Jerusalem. The door that they had slammed just hours before, they burst through the door, and now they are so excited, and now they begin telling him what had transpired, that they had just seen the resurrected Messiah, and he had just interpreted the Torah and the prophets, and that he had just fulfilled. And as they were beginning to tell the story, then the Messiah appeared in their midst and said, Shalom, Shalom, peace. And it says that he then opened their understanding in the Torah and in the prophets and in all the ketubim, the other scriptures, concerning what he had just fulfilled.
Michael Rood will return with some closing thoughts in just a moment.
The true name of the Almighty appears nearly 7,000 times in the Hebrew Scriptures, but not even once in the popular English versions. English translators replaced the name of the Holy One with a common title that is still used to address British nobility. When the English versions of the Bible tell us to praise the name of the Lord, we might properly respond, I would like to praise his name. What is it? I believe that your heart will burn within you when you understand the significance of the name of the Lord. We invite you to join us again next time for Episode 4 in the 26-part series on the Prophecies in the Feast of the Lord, the name of the one true God. This is Michael Rood from Jerusalem, bidding you shalom, peace. And I'll see you when the smoke clears.